Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Resolution 279-25, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warner.
Yes. I want to welcome viewers and guests who are watching live or at a time more convenient for them. We're going to move into seeing that there's no public participation or presentations. Moving to board committee updates, buildings and grounds. Mrs. Menor is not here. However, meeting is December 17th at 4:30 p.m. Finance, Mr. Purdue.
Yes, no update. We're going to be going over the budget, and our next finance meeting will be November the 19th at 4:30 p.m.
Okay, and then with policy, our meeting is actually tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the board office. And then Great Oaks.
Yes, student highlights, I laid up there at your chair, and we do have a Reading student.
Madeline Harris is at Scarlet Oaks Health Technology. Kimberly Harris and Christopher Harris are her parents. And voting, she's a voting delegate elect junior year. So congratulations to Madeline. Okay, moving on to board discussion items. Before we get started here, just very quickly, a board discussion item. I just want to recognize Saturday evening, we had a wonderful dinner. This the Historical Society invited Reading Superintendent Treasurer board members to their settlement day dinner. And Barb Hutzel was recognized for her 33 years with VYO and 31 years as an aide here in Reading. And it was just very nice and well deserved that she was recognized at the settlement dinner. And they didn't even mention, it's because she's been in multiple things. She was also in Little League football for probably, I'd say, 20 years, helping with that. So congratulations to Barb Hutzel, was recognition well deserved.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll move on to financial forecast.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. I appreciate the opportunity to talk tonight about the financial forecast. It's no longer called the 5-year forecast. So tonight what I'll do is I'll kind of highlight the revenue and the expenditure main changes from since I've last presented in May, and then also about our cash balances. So when you're taking a look at our revenue, if you want to go to the, yep, thank you, Dr. Davis. What you're looking at here is where our I've got a pie chart here kind of showing the makeup of our revenue, where we have 50% now made up of local tax revenue, 44% in state sources, and then 6% in all other. And what I'm trying to demonstrate here is the growing dependency that our revenue is shifting to, where we used to be more of a 50-50 partnership between state and local of taxes, and now we're moving more dependent on our local tax revenue. That is due to primarily less funding from the state, and in this last biennium, the state did not update the inputs of the fair school funding, and so that puts more burden on our local residents. If you know, when you're looking at this overall across the state of Ohio, the revenue is shifting that way for most schools, where we're seeing the state paying less and less of the share of public education. So one other thing that I kind of the main highlights of the revenue here is our local taxes are about $10.7 million. Our state sources are about 9.5 million, and our other revenue sources, which is primarily interest and some other like fees and things like that, which is about 1.2 million. We did see since our last forecast, in the last biennium budget, the state did continue the rollout of the fair school funding model. They did not update the inputs, and as a result of not updating those inputs, we lost about $2.8 million. So that's very important to understand. And then also, this year, our enrollment is down about 18 students, from last year. And as you're aware that, our revenue with the fair school funding model is based on ADM, which is average daily membership. So anytime our enrollment goes down, our funding also goes down, and that was about $1 million as well. One other change from the forecast from May is, we attended the Jibidon groundbreaking ceremony last week. And they will be opening their facility expected in about 2027. And so then we would be able to start collecting on those revenues the following year in the tax collection year of 28. So I did go ahead and include that revenue, where previously we knew about this revenue, but we were kind of uncertain of when that revenue would start to stream in. And so I have that starting in 2028, just so the board's aware of that. As I just mentioned before, kind of the fallout of the House Bill 96. I already mentioned that the fair school funding model, the final 2 years were phased in, which was very good for us. The base cost inputs were not, which was about a $2.8 million reduction in our funding. And the other thing that did not happen that we were hoping as a school community would happen is our categorical funding. Things like special education funding, gifted funding, student success and wellness funding, and DPIA, which is for disadvantaged students. There's been several very comprehensive studies that have been done to say how much does it cost to educate a child if that child has special needs? How much does it cost to educate a child that comes from an economically disadvantaged background? And unfortunately, those studies were not used in order to increase those categorical fundings. And so, like one example of that is like our DPIA funding. The survey shows that the state is only providing 21% of the funding that is needed to educate a student that is economically disadvantaged. So that is very important to also note that that did not happen in this budget. And one other thing that was very high priority on the district's list that was being discussed in the House Bill 96 was how would the cash reserves be handled. There was talk about capping those and adjusting rates. The governor did pull that out. And so that did not ultimately end up happening, but the district did take steps in order to preserve those cash balances, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. On expenditures, as you're aware, and I will always say this, schools are a people business. So the majority of our expenses are surrounding in our staff, in salaries and benefits. And we have quite a few staff that are also paid on purchase services. So between those areas of our budget, it's almost 95% of our budget is how we spend our expenditure budget. So we've got our personnel costs, our benefits. We have of the purchase services in that area. We also have PT, OT, all of the related services that are for students, like psychologists and educational aides, speech pathology. We contract with an organization, a company for our maintenance facility. So again, all of those are people related, but some of those costs are captured in our purchase service line rather than in salaries. So again, like I said, we have most of those costs around people. Some of the major changes that have happened since the last budget is we had a couple of new students move into the district, and they had special needs, and we have had to we have additional nursing where we have requirements through IEPs of 1-to-1 nurses. We have some additional cost in contract educational services that have increased our expenditures. And then we had some staffing that moved around from last year. We have been receiving less in IDEAB special education funding, and we no longer have enough dollars there to pay for our school psychologist. So that school psychologist was moved over to the general fund. So that was an increase of dollars that were moved over to the general fund, not an increase of a staff member, but just an increase of where those dollars were being used. Last year, we did reduce several FTE. When we filled the assistant principal position, that position was filled with the elementary dean of students, and then that position was not replaced. As well as we reduced one section of kindergarten, and those, so that was reflective of kind of what we're seeing in our enrollment numbers and right sizing those areas. Additionally, what you'll see here, just if you're kind of looking at trend lines, when you're looking at salaries for this particular year, you'll see that the salaries go down a little bit, and that is obviously for some of the FTE loss that I just talked about. But also we have two current positions that we had to go outside for, and they're being filled by an outside agency because we were unable to fill those, with a staff member here. So those salaries are now in the purchase service line versus being in a salary line. And so you'll see those salaries roll back in FY27. And then what I mentioned before, at the end of the fiscal year, we came to the board. We actually had a public meeting that we reached out. Well, we first talked about it in the May meeting during the forecast presentation. Then we had a separate public meeting that we invited community input. And then we talked about it again in the June meeting. And that is that what would we do with our cash reserves in order to protect those from the pending legislation? And so we identified areas of our expenditures that were not new expenditures. They were expenditures that we were already doing that were allowable costs that we could move over to special purpose funds, permanent improvement funds. And so that's what we did. So we went ahead and moved expenses out of our general fund forecast for athletic supplementals, sick severance pay. We were paying for a debt service COPS loan, which was up on the Hilltop property, and then doing things like textbooks and Chromebook adoptions. All of those dollars for the next 5 years have been removed from the 5-year forecast, and they are now in secured special purpose funds. So what you'll see again, when you're just looking at the trend line of expenditures, you're seeing some reduced expenditures in those areas because those expenses will be paid elsewhere. And then after FY30, those expenses will move back in because those dollars will have been exhausted. And then the next page, I kind of jumped ahead of myself, but these were the very specific things in the amounts of those dollars that we moved that I just spoke about. And again, I just want to mention that we did talk about these particular topics at 3 different public meetings and to offer community input on these prior to moving these to protect the cash reserves. So overall, we've talked about the revenue, we've talked about the expenditures, and this is just a more of a graphic kind of depicting that starting in FY26 and FY27, our revenues exceed our expenditures, so our cash is growing at that point, which is very typical in a levy cycle. And then as we go further out into the forecast from years 28 through 30, you can see where our expenses are slowly exceeding our revenues that are coming in. So this is, I like to look at this and be able to point out the importance to having stability in school funding and knowing what is our funding going to bring us over the next couple of years. Because when we look at this, and if we have reliable funding that we know that we can depend on, that we can predict what we're going to have, we can look at this and say, well, in years 3, 4, and 5, our expenditures exceed our revenue, and we need to start coming up with a plan so that we can, have a plan in place to either reduce that growing expense and somehow, you see what I'm saying? Like you have to be able to have an accurate forecast. You have to have accurate, predictable funding so that you can long-term plan. And so that's what we try to do, but it makes it a little bit harder the last year or so when, we had this fair school funding model that was very reliable and very predictable for 4 of the 6 years to phase out, and then it was kind of changed in these last 2 years. So, but overall, I feel like our district is doing very well. Like I said, we are in a balanced budget in the next 2 years, in years 3, 4, and 5. We have some time to take a look at those and examine those expenditures and try to get as close to a balanced budget as we can in that next couple of years. The district continues to try to identify cost savings. So those would be the conversations that we'll have as a leadership team and with the Board of Education on years 3, 4, and 5 of, how can we create some cost savings so that we aren't in a deficit? How can we continue to apply for additional competitive grants that offset dollars that we would normally be spending out of our general fund? And just continuing to do some of the things that we're doing with our investments and earning additional dollars and investments and partnerships and consortiums to save on the expenses that we do have. So if we want to jump to the next page, looking at where we are with, and I'm just going to give a high overview here because I know Dr. Davis is going to also talk about some legislative things, the things that, really kind of could be occurring with property tax reform over the next couple of months. I've highlighted on this slide here. We had 3 items that the governor had vetoed from the House Bill 96. One of which has already been overrode and is now active law, which is the elimination of the replacement levies. So it eliminated the ability to do a replacement levy, a fixed sum, or a substitute. So just so that everybody understands what that means is when they eliminate that, where they're currently out there and they exist, they qualify for homestead and rollback. So what districts will be required to do is, since they will eliminate them, they'll have to put them back on the ballot. And then if those levies pass, they no longer qualify for homestead and rollback because they would be after that date. So that's essentially a tax increase to your community member because they were getting credits back on their tax bill for homestead and rollback on these levies that were currently out there. And now this veto has eliminated that. And then the other thing that does is it also prohibits a school from putting any kind of new money current expense levy on if they have a cash balance over 100%. There may be a reason why a district would have over 100% at the given time that they need to put the levy on the ballot because of the timing of when your dollars come, you pass your levy and then when the actual dollars will start coming into your district. So that is very important to consider as well, when you're looking at your forecast and when you might have to go for a levy. The House Bill 129, it was also vetoed from the budget bill, which is a modification to the 20 mil floor. What it does is it basically says that now your emergency and your substitute levies will count towards the 20 mil floor. That's very important to a lot of districts across the state of Ohio. We are not on the 20 mil floor, so it does not affect us as much as it will other districts. But again, this is very important to be watching because how that could change things for us going down the line. And then House Bill 309, it just recently passed the House. And this one is very concerning to me. This is the expansion of the County Budget Commissioner authority. And what this does is this allows your local county budget commissioner to adjust levy rates. So when you submit your tax budget every year and for levies that you have already passed through your Board of Education, passing a resolution saying they want to put this on in your community, coming in and voting for that levy, your local budget commissioner can now reduce those rates. They can reduce those rates for many reasons. And that's basically an override of what your local community has voted on, but also, it's an infringement upon the authority that the Board of Education has. So it's very important that the board understands that and where we would advocate for that because that's concerning. So we want to make sure that we're aware of that one. And then just some other proposals that are currently out there. House Bill 186 is more like a cap on property taxes, where you would cap the growth on the 20 mil floor, and it would take the GDP inflation and say now your taxes can't grow at more than what that 3-year average was. House Bill 335 originally started out as a complete elimination of inside millage, and it has been modified to go along with the GDP deflator as well, but it would be specific on inside millage. It's important to understand with inside millage does not get rolled back like your other revenue does. So it's in our case, it is the only area of property taxes where we can see any kind of increase in revenue is on our inside millage, which is 4.19 mils. All of our other millage that we have approved gets rolled back. So when property values go up, our rates roll back so we don't collect any additional dollars. So this is very important as well. And then there's some other proposals out there as well, which is a piggyback off of the homestead and the rollbacks that are currently out there. But the difference is where community members are receiving those credits now, that schools are held harmless for that. And so if you receive those credits on your tax bill, we get reimbursed as a school from the state of Ohio. This would piggyback on that, but there would be no reimbursement from the state of Ohio, which means that schools would lose those revenues. So you can see here on my forecast, we get about $775,000 with the rollbacks and homestead credits. So that would be almost 4 mil. Well, not quite 4 mils for us now, but it's substantial if that would happen. So that's very important. Then there's the two other bills, which is eliminating continuing levies and the elimination of the inside millage. A new bill has come up. So just lots of ongoing concerns regarding legislation that's currently being introduced to so we just need to be very aware of those bills and be advocating on behalf of the district.
So if it's not going to affect us because we're not going for a bond for a while.
Right.
But if a district is going for a bond and that passes and they get that money, so that it's more than 100% of what they're operating in, so then they can't go for an operating levy?
Well,
or is it different?
There is differences between bonds and
I know the difference between
operating.
I just didn't know if they were considering the money the same.
No, but for example, like let's use us for example. We did not have 100% cash balance, but let's just imagine that we did. But maybe we had that 100% where we had saved for a particular project. Maybe we had to replace several boilers, we had to replace the roof, or there could be many reasons why we might have a couple of $1 million extra. But yet we knew that we were going to spend that in 2 years, and in 3 years we needed an operating levy. What some of these proposals would do is say, because you have more than 100% in your cash balance, you're not allowed to go for an operating levy until you have depleted those funds. And so what if your levy doesn't pass? And then now you're really in an awkward spot because you may need to run it several times. And
so you're being punished for being good stewards of the community.
Exactly. So
I mean, it's our responsibility to be fiscally responsible. And so we do that, and we get grants, and we do all this stuff to do that. And then on the flip side, you're being punished to do that.
Yes. So that is concerning. And then just, I've talked about this before, is just the change in the 5-year forecast and why this is so concerning to me. We really use as our administration team and our leadership team, and I know with the Board of Education as well, our forecast as a tool to be financially responsible. And so when we see that we're in a spot where we will be in a deficit, we start planning years in advance to try to not be in a deficit. And so with having the dates and when the forecast is due being in August instead of in November, we haven't even run our first payroll for the year. People aren't even on our benefits yet to know if they're going to take family, single, they're not going to take anything. And that's a swing of quite a bit of money. And so we want our forecast to be as accurate as possible. And by changing those dates, it really leaves room for error in the accuracy. And so that's concerning to me. So,
And we continually doing it with the 5-year forecast
yes.
and doing it with our dates. And then when their dates come up, you just give them what at that time?
Yes,
I mean,
so,
is
so,
that
and that's
allowed?
what we'll probably do now. Now, there was the one-time extension this year, which is why we're approving it tonight instead of on August 31st for this year, but next year we'll be expected to file it on August 31st. So I can definitely see us filing as best as can be
Sure.
on August 31st to meet our ODE requirement, and then maybe coming back in November when we would have normally done it and filing it an amended forecast. And I mean, we can file as many forecasts as we wish. Obviously it's a lot more work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, you want it to be, but we want it to be right. So.
Yeah.
It is that we may start seeing that happening.
And we have no control over what they're gonna do in the
Right.
next biennium, whatever the rules may change, and we just have to be aware of what we need in our district. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So my next slide is just showing the competitive grants, and this is just a reminder to the board and the community that the district, the teaching staff, it's a very big effort on all of their parts, and it's a collective effort. That's the word I'm trying to come up with. Where all people are always looking at the competitive grants out there. They're doing the work to be able to file those, and as you can see, we've since FY23, we're up to $2.3 million in competitive grants. So we're really proud of that, and we thank our staff for that. On the next slide is a slide showing the investment earnings. And so since 2021, we've done investments with our available dollars that we have. We take a look at all opportunities where we can maximize our investment returns. We typically invest in things like commercial papers. We do have a money market. We do CDs, government agency bonds, and US Treasuries. And since 2021, we've earned $2.2 million in investment earnings. And that's just in interest. So we're really proud of that. We have laddered investments so that based on which is another reason why the forecast needs to be super accurate, because we have laddered investments based on when we know that we will need to pull money out so that we can maximize those returns. And then my last slide is just a call to everyone for their advocacy. Dr. Davis and myself, we continue to represent the district on a couple of different state committees, just so that we're making sure that the state legislator is hearing our community's voice. Every community is different, and we want them to make sure that they know about Reading and the needs of Reading's kids. So we ask that everyone do that, the Board of Education, the staff, and our families. So here's some information on our local rep and our local senator that people can reach out to. And then anyone that has any questions at all regarding the district finances, they can reach out to me, and my information is listed here, my telephone number and my email, and then our treasurer's webpage, which has quite a bit of information as far as previous forecast and different things that they could reach out to as well. Anything else?
Have questions?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You-
Appreciate it. Okay, we are having a little technical difficulties, so we just we needed to stop that Zoom meeting and start a new one, so that's why there's a little bit of delay between the two sections. We're gonna move on to continue with board discussion items with the graduation update.
Thank you, Mrs. Warnery. Yeah, I just wanted to talk to the board. We have been working hard to secure a graduation venue and date for the class of 2026. So originally, last year was the first year we were in the larger space at the Sharonville Convention Center to accommodate more guests. And that space, unfortunately, what I gotta get you on the phone. Unfortunately, that space is not available the last week of school, of the school year, which would be the week of May 25th, May 25th. That there's a convention that week, and my fear is that moving forward in the future, that we could run into that issue in that space because it is a convention hall, not just a ballroom. So it's used for their larger conventions. So that week of May 25th, which is the last week of school, that space is not available. We looked at the week or the week of May 19th, and proposed having graduation on May 21st, which is a Wednesday, because that space is available on the 21st. However, my concern is there's a great deal of uncertainty at this point, and we have to make a decision now because we will lose all options if we don't book a space. The uncertainty is that week, according to our athletic director, is potentially district and regional softball, baseball, and track that week. Again, she is unsure what day that would fall during the week. We could have 0 kids involved in it. We could have rain, or we could have 15 to 20 kids involved. We don't know. So I wanted to just share that background information. We do have the smaller space option reserved so that we could secure that. We have that reserved for May 28th, which is a Thursday. The nice thing about a Thursday, which is better than a Wednesday, is that that's the student's last day of school on Thursday. And so our faculty that attend the graduation event, families, those sorts of things, we do have work the next day, but we don't have students the next day. So it makes that a little bit easier for staff. Traditionally, as you know, we've had it on Thursdays. Last year was on a Wednesday because of the availability of the room. But we would be in the smaller space, and part of the reason we explored that larger space is because we've outgrown it. Now this graduating class right now has 115 students in the graduating class. There are 1,265 seats available in that room, and that does not include the graduates or the staff member seats. So what we could do then is each family could be allotted 10 to 11 tickets for graduation. If you weren't using all your tickets, those could be distributed to other families who need additional tickets. The reason we've talked about ticketing system is that I'm concerned about being over the fire code of capacity in that room and having potentially a couple hundred people standing, with elderly people that need seats, need chairs. So that's where we would propose doing a ticketing system for the graduates. I think 10 or 11 tickets is a good amount. That's the most we could do because of the capacity in there. But again, if a family were not to use that many tickets, the office would be working, the district, or excuse me, the junior senior high office would be working with families so that they could distribute tickets to other families as well. So I just wanted to get any thoughts on this. I mean, we've talked about other options. We talked about possibly, going into the first week of June. One of the, an obstacle would that be the seniors get out the week before graduation. That would be 2 weeks after graduation. I would be concerned people might be out of town or working, or, there could be some conflicts that doing it on the weekend, the cost is more expensive. That's why we've done it on a weekday as well. last year we had talked, like, even I think we brainstormed a little bit about like Centos Center. It was quite a bit more money to do that down there. So and this is kind of with the date that we're looking at and the option, there's not a lot of other choices right now. I think, we've done this for years in this space. We've only been in the big room 1 year, but I would propose that we have some sort of control over how many people come to the event, because that had been the concern with having hundreds of people standing and at the graduation in that space. So any comments or thoughts, I'd be happy to talk.
Just a quick question. The large space on a better Saturday, what is the additional cost?
I'm not sure what that is. My understanding, though, is that it's not available the Saturday before or that Saturday after, but I can double check that. But that's my understanding because of the convention going on. So
Is
Yeah.
the larger room available the Thursday before that? Like the week before? But on a
The-
Thursday?
it was not available. It was available that Wednesday.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. The
Yeah.
tournament games this is a new thing, but it's always on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mhm.
And that's typically the third or fourth round of tournament play. So it's
Yeah.
pretty. A lot of what ifs that it would involve any of our students.
Yeah.
And even like the 2022 year when we won districts, they did play on a Thursday, but it was because there were multiple rainouts and it just, when that happens, it just gets pushed to the next day, which if in that situation, we would never have any control over those kids missing graduation. And I can say that there wasn't a child on the baseball team that was worried about missing graduation. They wanted to play baseball.
Sure.
We don't want to put them in that position. Their parents,
No.
graduation's for
understand that.
parents more than it is for the kids.
But if you're in the district finals, I'm just saying, like, a lot of the kids would prefer to play baseball instead of.
I'd rather not put them in that position and go back to the room where we've always been. And give each family 10 tickets, which is a lot more than a lot of districts give their kids.
Yeah.
A lot more than they give their families. When we were over at Rockdale, they only got 4 tickets, I believe. And when Reading graduated over there, because there just wasn't enough room. I love the bigger room.
Mhm.
But we've been in the other room for so many years. And it was a matter of, because we had people in the hallway, we had elderly people not able to sit down. Like you said, the control thing, what ifs, but yeah, but what if? We've got some strong sports teams and I would hate to put any child and their parents in that position. For this year and moving forward, maybe there's other options, but this time we need to. If we don't say yes to this room, we're gonna end up with nothing. And
We already reserved it, right?
We have it
Okay.
reserved
Yeah,
for right now.
Yeah,
I mean, we could possibly have flexibility at Sharonville, but we had to get something
Right.
signed on
Sure.
paper to be able to have a space.
other venues that
Mhm.
maybe have our counselors start looking July 1 for next year and maybe seeing what other options they may have. I know a lot of schools
One
go
option,
to NKU now,
and
but that's a
another
long way for some of our people to go. That
another
may not-
suggestion was the Assembly of God Church in
over
Springdale.
in Springdale.
I know Goshen has had their graduations there.
I think we hit it
I
once.
think it's
We did.
They
My sister
had,
graduated there.
Numerous years.
Great Oaks. And that's the other thing. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Purdue. We're working on Great Oaks graduations too, which will be after theirs, but they
Mhm.
also have their graduations like the week before that too, which is another. It's I think being in that larger space can accommodate us better. I think it's just always going to be a little tricky with scheduling that space because that's really how they generate money or conference or conventions, you know. They can open up those walls and make it go all the way down and have the large shows in there. So
I'm just concerned about the ticketing, to be honest. I mean, just being a small family.
Bless you.
If I needed a ticket, we would have just enough tickets, and that's without uninviting grandparents or people that want to be there. But I'm looking at half of families have step parents, they have step siblings, they have possibly adult siblings with a wife or a husband that they would like to bring. 10 is not a lot of tickets for most families. I mean, honestly, just for most families with 2 or 3 kids, there's over half of your tickets, and then are you deciding which grandparents you invite? If the grandparents are still together, or if they're with other people, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it gets really tricky when you're thinking of 10 tickets. And that includes children too. So we also have, and historically, kids have come to support their friends when they're graduating, but that wouldn't be an option for them either with the ticket system. I just don't see that there's gonna be a lot of tickets left over. And community members have come, you know, but they would need a ticket. So I mean, there's a lot of downsides to that. I remember in 2024, looking at the small room, and thinking, there is absolutely no way we can fit in this room again. Because remember, there were hundreds of people just lined on the wall. So I understand the ticket thing would help control that, but I feel like to me, the most important thing is that the kid gets to graduate with everybody that they want there and have that experience with. And I just feel like that we might take away from that experience for kids if we limit the tickets. I understand that's the circumstances that we're in, but I just wouldn't want somebody's grandparents to miss out, or their aunt and uncle that they've been close to not be able to come if that's somebody that's really important to them. It also puts parents in a really tricky predicament, because who gets the tickets? You know, I just think I probably have a different perspective having a senior, but I'm just thinking of this logistically in my own
People have
family.
Seniors
So
too.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I'm looking at our tickets, and we only have just enough. If anybody else asked to come,
Yeah.
like, no, you can't. So I'm just saying, like, 10 tickets seems like a lot, but it's just really not.
Mm. And I get that. I mean, I totally, I totally understand what you're saying. I have lived the other side of it,
What do you mean?
where where I went to school, they did limit us to, I believe it was 6.
Oh, wow.
And so it was literally your parents, your grandparent, and that's who went, and that's
2 favorite grandparents.
but I mean, so everyone was able to have family there, and then there's kids that they have 2 parents, and that's it, and so they gave their tickets to other people, and I get you. There's no good answer to this.
Right.
But I just go back to last year was the first year we used the big room.
Mhm.
We have made it work before. And I think the control of at least some type of control, having a ticket thing of some kind is better than nothing when you've got grandparents that are still sitting in their car because they
Yeah.
can't get inside. Everybody should have somebody in there.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
I agree with that.
yeah. And like you said, there's a lot of what ifs. Well,
Yeah.
what if, what if the teams don't even get to the district? What if they don't ever, what if nobody? But what if they do?
Right.
I mean, we have to
But
be
this
able.
isn't a new problem either. Like every year they could get there, and we've always had it the same week. I understand we would have it a week earlier,
Yeah.
but most of the time they're not playing then.
Mm.
There's slight chance, but most of the time they're not.
My understanding from athletics is that we wouldn't run into any athletic conflicts the week of the 25th. So we would not have any, so there'd be no chance then, but the uncertainty is what really would concern me if it could impact a group of students. I mean, I'm not anticipating 15 students that it would necessarily impact, but that's 10% of your graduating class, you know, that you would have a little uncertainty of who it might potentially impact. And you're right, Mrs. Tom, and it could impact nobody. I mean,
Look, and what time are we looking at? Cause I mean, we're starting at 4:30, but graduation's at 7:30, it might not impact anybody.
7 o'clock.
Okay.
Seven. And yeah, and I don't know where those games are held. They might be held at Princeton. I don't know where, you know, some of those.
Yeah, once you get
Baseball,
towards the
softball.
end, it's further away, but
Mhm. I know the kids played in Dayton one year, a few years
yeah,
ago.
that's like when you get to the districts.
So what about shifting the time back? Instead of 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, could that possibly help?
I don't think we can get the room though, right? Like, I mean, the week that we wanted it.
Yeah, we can't get the room that we want on the 28th.
Right.
Yeah. We can only get the original room that we've had on the 28th. So the time, because we're not looking at any conflicts, we won't have any, we would be able to keep it at 7 o'clock then on the 28th.
But if we did the week before on that Wednesday, you're saying if we did 8 o'clock instead of 7, with that, but I don't know if the facility. Do we have certain times that we're allowed in there? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not the one talking to these
Sure,
vendors.
sure.
This is the high school talking to them, but you know, they have been very patient with me because they've had to go back and forth with the vendor. I would just say 8 o'clock is very late for having our students there to perform in the band, having our staff there. They would have students the next day. I just don't think that would go over very well with everyone.
Yeah, just not a good idea.
So I can find out the cost difference on a Saturday. I was just told that it was more expensive, but I can find that out for the board. And my understanding is that because it's not available, so we could have it on the 21st, but then on the 22nd, it's not available. So it's not available through that weekend and that
Because it's
next
a whole
week.
weekend.
Yeah, yeah. And then you run into, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, I haven't looked at the calendar, is that, or do you run into Memorial Day weekend,
Oh.
that following weekend?
We usually have it, what, the Thursday before Memorial Day?
Yeah, and that's what this is, the 28th.
Okay.
Yes, that's that Thursday. So it's our last day of the school year with students.
Okay,
Yeah, well, Memorial Day is the 25th.
okay, yeah, so that would.
Oh,
be
so it's the
first-
weekend before.
It is the weekend before, so
Okay,
the
okay.
21st is what I have
Okay.
on the calendar is, but it's the 28th now.
Yes, Thursday,
Okay.
the 28th.
Okay.
Is there any way of looking at how we organize the graduation? Because the teachers take a whole bunch of chairs in the middle there, in that middle section. And I was able to go to several graduations last year, and they had teachers in different locations that, I mean, I don't know how many seats that they take.
Maybe 30, something like that.
Okay, so it's not like
Possibly.
it's not like to make the difference.
It doesn't seem like there's
Can they-
open chairs around them or between them though, that I noticed. Did you
Yeah.
notice any?
No,
Well,
I just,
I think they organize, they get the name of staff members who are coming and then they set up
Okay.
the proper number of chairs, so there's not any
Okay.
wasted space
Yeah.
okay,
for visitors. Yeah,
okay, all right. Okay.
yeah.
I'm trying to picture the smaller room.
The
Because it was
ambiance of the
put
smaller
separate.
room is nicer,
Mhm.
as far as just
Here.
That's true, we could.
you know, just the aesthetics and the layout of the smaller room is nicer. It's just because it's a ballroom, right?
Mhm.
It's not a convention room, but from a capacity standpoint, the larger room is better for us. And maybe we, for 2027, we're looking at a Assembly of God or some other alternative spaces that could accommodate a couple thousand people. with seating and.
Some classes get bigger too, right? After, don't we have like as you go down the high school, don't they get a little bit bigger?
Our big one girl already graduated.
We could have like, yeah, we could have like 125 or so.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
thought it got bigger
yeah.
than that. I guess
Yeah.
maybe.
I'd have to look those. I know, like our seventh grade is close to 130 maybe
Okay.
right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So, but I can find out, a couple of those questions and let you know this week. Again, I'm not loving the suggestion of the tickets. I just don't know how better to keep things safe and under control because to Mrs. Tallman's point, in 2024, I looked
Yeah.
around too and I just thought this
This is
feels,
not
and people were distracting.
Yeah.
And I felt like it kind of took away from the student experience because people were loud and talking in the back and, I mean, it's a celebration
Sure.
for students.
Well, there is a little bit more formality when everybody's seated too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did seem kind of like there were two things going on. There was the back and then
Yeah.
there was the
Yeah,
ceremony.
my wife was there.
Something was going on out that hallway.
My wife was there. She was in the back and they were like, what is going on back here?
There was a lot going
There's a
on.
lot going on. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the right answer is. I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I mean, really, we can't offer more tickets though. I mean, because of the size of the room, I just don't know what the right answer is because I just don't. Thinking of other families in the class, I don't know that that's
Mhm.
enough.
Well, we keep on saying what if, but technically, if the fire department comes in there and they don't like what they see, they can close it down.
Well, the other thing, Mr. Purdue, that you bring up that has been a concern is we are overtaking the parking lots beyond capacity too, which has been another concern. People with disabilities, just because we're bringing in more people, than what it's designed for. So you're right. They could shut it down. Now again, we've done it for years. It's just. I think the last couple times we were in there, we were like, we've really outgrown this space, The sound system's good, the space is good. It's just a little tight.
Mm.
The other thing that the high school suggested were to make the tickets would be like keepsakes, like laminated tickets that students and their families, when they would get, they'd be maybe like a larger ticket and that they, with the student's name or some, in class of 2026, it would be something they could keep permanently. So it was just like something you could, that would be given to you as a memento of the event, which I thought was a nice touch too.
Willy Wonka.
I was just thinking that
Or you-
actually. Yeah.
Golden ticket.
Golden
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, the week before, it's only available on a Wednesday night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And then not Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the whole next week,
it's not
it's not
available.
available.
And I'll double confirm with Mrs. Magley. She's been the kind of the point person with that, but that's what I've been told. Yeah.
Cause I mean, if this is a yearly convention, we probably do need to start looking,
Yeah.
cause this is gonna come up every year.
It is a tattoo convention, so if you want to go to
You
graduation,
just combine,
and then you could
get a Reading.
get an arm, get a blue devil, get a
2026.
trident.
There's a memento. There you go. Get your diploma and get it done.
There you go. Walk right over. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, let me follow up with you and find out a couple of those things. No.
Yeah. And like you said, there's really no No good answer, there's not, no. Which is also, isn't that a good problem, that we have so many people wanting to come to a graduation,
Yeah.
you know, it's, yeah, so. District report.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm gonna kind of go quickly here. Mrs. Burke was able to cover several of the items in here, so I'll just talk about a few things. And you have these slides. I apologize, I'm not able to share my screen. You have these slides though in your packet there. Right to your left, Mrs. Tolman. Yes, that one right there. Yeah. So last week I attended the BASA Superintendent Conference, and with that conference, there were a lot of legislative updates. So as Mrs. Burke shared, the work unfortunately is not over. We need districts, boards of education, community members, teachers to continue to advocate for education. And a lot of the vetoes, there were over 65 line item vetoes by the governor. Those were the direct results of communities reaching out to his office and advocating that those be removed from the budget bill. And you know, I do want to thank Governor DeWine for listening to communities and being willing to make some tough decisions that his party is not happy with. And as Mrs. Burke shared, there are several items that they're trying to put back into the budget. And so it's going to be hard to follow along since I can't share, so I apologize. But I will say this, that there was a property tax work group that was formed as a result of the budget, and that group began to meet in July. And they had to have their recommendations to the governor by the end of September. And so they did get those recommendations. This group was tasked with really identifying what are some reforms that can happen to lower property taxes in Ohio. And on this group, Bill Seitz, he's a former state senator, state representative. He was the co-chair of the group. There were some auditors, some county commissioners, two superintendents, and one treasurer on the group. So the representation for school districts was very small on the property tax reform group. But they did have several recommendations. I'll talk about a few of those. But you've also probably heard that Ohio's property tax reform bill to get rid of property tax. And so people have been coming around, knocking on doors, asking, do you like to pay property taxes? Well, the answer, no one likes to pay property taxes, but they serve a purpose. So we're a society, for one. I believe somebody paid that for me when I was a child. And I think that's part of being in a society. The other thing is with property taxes is that also funds our emergency services with police and fire, and provides a lot of revenue that if property taxes were abolished, where would that come from? 61% right now favor abolishing property taxes in Ohio. Some of the suggestions on how would that be funded would be increase and expand income tax, increase and expand sales tax, and 27% said they're unsure how you would continue to pay for those things. So the work group has formed, as I said, and Mrs. Burke talked about one of the recommendations was to eliminate the use of substitute levies and rename all current substitute and emergency levies so that it's not confusing with voters. Name them fixed sum levies. And fixed sum levies, when those are renewed, those levies would count towards those districts on the 20 mil floor. In Ohio, of 611 school districts, 477 are on the 20 mil floor. So that means that about 78% of school districts in Ohio are on the 20 mil floor. We are not one of those districts, but there are many districts around us that are on the floor. And the advantage of the floor is that they receive the extra revenue benefit as property home values are reassessed and they go up in value, and that's what we've seen in Ohio. So the burden of taxpayers in Ohio, about 70% of homeowners and farmers in Ohio are they're funding schools with their property taxes. So that burden has significantly shifted, as Mrs. Burke shared. In 1991, homeowners and farmers were responsible for about 47% of funding of schools. Today, as I said, it's almost 70%. Another piece of information, Ohio now is the 8th highest property tax state nationally. So the property taxes we are all paying in our communities, we are 8th overall in the country. And we are 46th nationally in state taxes. So your state tax for Ohio is at the bottom, and our property taxes are at almost the top in the country nationally. So that's why something has to be done with property taxes. I believe there's a lot of legislation and a lot of legislative decisions that have happened since 2005 and beyond that were in today's problems. And it's not because school districts continue to spend more and continue to ask for more and more and more. Many of these were legislative decisions, and schools want tax reform too, but it needs to be balanced. How do we do that? One of the things you may remember, in 2005, legislation was passed around something called tangible personal property tax, TPP. So taxes on equipment and inventory, those were phased out over 20 years, and that lost over $1 billion of revenue. Much of that revenue was supporting school districts. And so that has been as a result of tax policy changes throughout Ohio, the shift in the burden continues to go on to the local property tax payer and owner. That's why we're now 8th nationally. Meanwhile, business taxes in Ohio have businesses, their taxes have been cut in half. And so homeowners and farmers, as I said, now carry almost 70% of school property taxes, and business shares have been nearly cut in half. And the cuts of state taxes have reduced state support, forcing schools and local communities to raise property taxes, leaving Ohio where we are today. So this is just something that we need to continue to pay attention to, because although we are not a 20 mil floor district, as Mrs. Burke shared, I am concerned that there will be more legislation to come. House Bill 186, that right now they're proposing that if a district on the floor collects more property tax revenue than inflation, then there would be a credit on the taxpayers back to the property owner. And so many of these districts that are on the floor are going to have to probably go out and have levies, and then those levies will be accounted against them and they will no longer be on the floor. So you'll see right now the estimate is about 50% of the districts on the floor will be off the floor, as if they're capping the revenue growth. The other concern, as Mrs. Burke mentioned, was inside millage cap. That would be very, very challenging for any district, because it is the only millage that we have that continues to show growth. Whereas with House Bill 920, our millage is capped and it will roll back because that's a set amount of money, set amount of dollars. So we need to continue to pay close attention to this. It's important that although it may not directly affect Reading schools today with some of this legislation, I do believe that there will be other legislation. The other piece too is just paying attention to state teacher retirement systems. specifically retirement benefits to administrators as well, that they are looking at proposing that be eliminated as a benefit for administrators to pick up their retirement contribution. Unfortunately, what I think that would end up doing for school districts is end up costing them more money, because you would have to look at how do you compensate that benefit in a different way. We didn't get here because suddenly one day schools were, but we're in a situation where homeowners feel this, and unfortunately because the burden has shifted so heavily to local communities, that's why. And the growth of the growth of homes and the value of homes continues to accelerate, which makes people's taxes continue to go up. I just want to stay engaged. I want us to continue to pay close attention. And I'll provide the board with new updates as information comes out. But I do appreciate BASA, and you do have that handout with you. I apologize that I can't go through it on the screen with you, but if you do have any questions and you can take that with you, I'm happy to answer anything.
Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you so much. And appreciate you guys going to BASA and this past week, and I always appreciate when the leadership goes to these different conferences, because you're able to bring back and share a lot and network with other superintendents and leaders.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to treasurer's recommendations. Waive the reading of the minutes for the following meetings. Resolution 280-25, approve the minutes for the September 17th, 2025 work and regular sessions.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
Yes. Resolution 281-25, approve financial reports, bank reconciliation, investments, September of 2025. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Tomlin, second by Mr. Purdue. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
Yes. Resolution 282-25, approve the financial forecast and assumption notes fiscal year 2026 through 2030.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
Yes. Moving on to new business, resolution 283-25. Oh, sorry. Mrs. Burke, thank you again for your presentation on that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Resolution 283-25, recommend the approval of Jared Cox accompaniment of concerts at the Reading Community Schools up to 4 hours concert at a rate of $40 per hour.
make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Tomlin, second by Mr. Purdue. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
And it sounded like an amazing performance down there. Sorry that we weren't able to get down there.
Yeah.
Resolution 284-25, recommend to rescind the following staff supplementals.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
Yes. Resolution 285-25, recommend the approval of the following staff supplementals.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery,
Yes. Resolution 286-25, recommend the approval of the following non-staff supplementals. And before we move, I would like to pull out Jeff Tomlin from this
okay,
to be voted on in a different, our next meeting.
okay. That sounds good, thank you.
Okay, with that change, I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion with change.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue,
Yes.
Mrs. Tomlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Warnery.
Yes. Resolution 287.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
I think, like the way they just motioned in second is really to amend the agenda.
Yes.
If we could do that and
So now we gotta
then
go
we
with-
vote on the
vote.
resolution.
Absolutely,
Is that okay?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So then I'm gonna have it as Mr. Purdue motion, Mrs. Tallman seconded to change the
To
agenda.
amend the,
Yes,
the
to
resolution.
remove Mr. Tallman. And then,
Okay,
because we wouldn't have enough people to vote, because Mrs. Tallman typically sustains.
she would have to
Yeah,
abstain.
abstain, yes, sustain. I'm tired, I'm sorry.
Nope, nope. that's
Now
fine.
can we do the?
Yes.
Okay.
I need a motion
I'll
to
make the
approve.
motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Tomlin, second by Mr. Purdue to approve 286-25 with the change, with the amended change.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Purdue?
Yes,
Mrs. Tallman?
Yes.
Mrs. Warner?
Yes. Resolution 287-25, recommend the approval of the following volunteer.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue?
Yes,
Mrs. Tallman?
Yes.
Mrs. Warner?
Yes. Boy, what a change that will be, huh? For him to volunteer. Resolution 288-25, recommend the approval of the following contracts.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue?
Yes,
Mrs. Tallman?
Yes.
Mrs. Warner?
Yes. And I believe
I'll remember.
you'll do the E's and the, because it's
Mhm.
D, E. That should have been F, I believe. And then G. Resolution 289-25, recommend the approval of the revised hours for the following staff for 2026 school year. Make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Tomlin, second by Mr. Purdue. Roll call, please.
Mr. Purdue?
Yes,
Mrs. Tallman?
Yes.
Mrs. Warner?
Yes. And resolution 290-25, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Purdue, second by Mrs. Tomlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I have 7:44. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great evening.
Last, we've had a name, or did they just do that?
That is new.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what-
So those are